the whole Liam Kumar Day effect, not really happened.
Nigel couldn't make it.
Yeah.
I rang up Mendenhall, he said he could make it.
Don't dig this hole. Still, credit to the guy, he always manages to do well what he has, but he is a shocking personality. You guys got a trophy? No.
It was pre-bit.
No, my life from Rashad Mendenhall.
Right, you go. I'm a tag, Jack! I'm a fucking tag!
Hello and welcome to another episode of the LOC Report, because this year we do have an off-season series once again, and we are doing it podcast style as well as article style, and of course I have the co-host himself here to help me with that, Chris Leach. How's it going, Chris?
Yeah, really well, thanks. So it's interesting to be here such an early part of the year, but needs must. Everyone's home still, so we might as well do it in this format. And yeah, it brings it to life a little bit more, I think. So hopefully you should enjoy it.
Yeah, absolutely. Like you say, we're not usually here at this time of year, largely because, of course, we don't actually have that much to talk about. But we do have the Hall of Fame nominations, which, as you had the great idea, we usually do the article for. But let's bring them to life a little bit more, give them a little more pop each. So we're going to do a podcast on each of those this year. So I did post the article very late last night. I will try and remember to post them earlier on Tuesdays going forward, and then we will hopefully have the podcast on the Wednesday or another day not so long after that. And today's, as you have seen from the title, we are starting very strong. I've just posted them in the order they are in the draft on the blog. We are starting with IKSAN's nomination for Draft Magic, and we will reveal and go over what that is in just a second. But before we do that, Chris, what do we need to give the people?
Well, I think I need a bit of news.
We do indeed. Of course, not much news, given this time of year. We kind of did the AGM stuff and everything else already, but draft day is the one thing that we will remind you every week of, because we do not want that to slip, and the draft day is the 29th of August. Time not set yet, but likely sometime in the afternoon or maybe evening. We haven't had an evening draft in a while, have we, Chris?
No, that's it. I was going to say it's been a long time, but actually they are good fun, the evening drafts.
It's like prime time, yeah.
Yeah, very nice.
So yeah, 29th of August, that's a Saturday. Do not double book yourselves for that. We will have dial-in options as normal, which may be very required, but hopefully not. Things are starting to look better on that front as well, so there may be hope yet, possibly for an in-person alignment event in some capacity at least anyway.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So we don't give up any hope just yet. It's going to happen at some point, so we'll see how we go. Yeah, indeed.
And in terms of other news, like I said, nothing LSU related, but there is some interesting stuff going on in the NFL. So obviously with the whole pandemic thing, a lot of the American sports leagues have been impacted, but baseball was meant to start, I think, end of March, start of April. That has not even commenced yet. Basketball had to stop completely mid-season. NFL kind of lucky with where they are. They had the draft, but they obviously did that all virtually. But they would have had mini camps and organised team activities, in May. But they obviously happened virtually. But June is when players start reporting to training camp. And at the moment, it's looking like that may happen at the end of June, which is an interesting note. If they don't start then the official start of the preseason, when they all report and everything, will, as far as they're concerned at the moment, will start as normal in July and whatnot. And at the moment, they are still planning for fans to be in the stadium, and there are zero plans for any games to not be played at all. So good signs on the NFL and fantasy front as well, wouldn't you say?
Definitely.
Yeah,
definitely. I think that maybe having fans in the stadium initially might work, but as nearer the winter carries on,
when we get the second peak, exactly.
I think that may well drop off a little bit
for sure.
But hey, we might as well enjoy it while we can.
Yeah, indeed.
It's an optimistic thing to do in such times.
Yes, indeed.
If there's one organisation that's been proven that they can adapt, it's the NFL.
Yeah, absolutely. The state governors in the states have already started allowing sports to come back, not necessarily in the full playing capacity yet, but training together and whatnot. So, like you said, the fans may be the bit that's missing, but almost certainly we will get the games. And again, as the NFL doesn't actually have any games till August, they'll have baseball and NBA pioneering the way for them to do it safely. So, in theory, they are the best placed sports league for this, so we shall see. But anyway, enough about depressing stuff. No debate corner today. Like I said, these are going to be relatively short podcasts, and ours definitely needs to be today. But we will be talking about the Hall of Fame nomination. As I said, it's IKSAN's Draft Magic. So if you haven't checked out the article yet, and I've just realised I've not actually shared the link into the Facebook group, I will do that very quickly. If you've not checked out the article yet, the link is on the Facebook group. I did put it in the Facebook chat, and it is also in the description of this video, so you can go read that. Have you read it yet, Chris?
I have indeed, yes.
Yeah? Good. It's always good when we've actually read the content we'll be talking about.
I've got to talk about it, so
yeah,
I've got to read it, really.
Indeed, and I don't know if you've got it up on your screen, but it's up here as well. We'll just make sure you can be seen as well, Chris. There you are. I should probably move that over just so we super short don't cover you up, because the people do want to see you, of course. So yeah, Draft Magic. So the nomination right at the top here is for 7 seasons without a single losing season, 2013 to 2019, which is an LOC record. Around that, as we will see when we kind of go through the article and talk about it individually, IKSAN have actually only had 1 losing season in their entire career, which was naturally the year before this period. Even then, it was still 6-8, which you can see right there. No other team can boast that they've gone 7 seasons without a losing season. I didn't check it to see if one is a standalone record of teams that have been in the league for at least 2-3 years or more. But it's got to be at least a tied record, and given the length of time Ben has been in the LOC, it's an incredible achievement, would you say, Chris? Just looking at that statement to begin with.
I mean, I think that this is one of the more impressive feats that we see. I mean, to be quite honest with you, there's not that many people. In fact, there's no one that can boast a record like this. And bearing in mind that he's 1 game away from an entire career without losing a season, that to me is absolutely sublime, and underlines everything that Ben does right across the course of the year. Now, we'll come on to this in a little bit, but the drafts make a massive, massive difference for him year on year. And when you have such a solid foundation as he does, you're going to be consistent throughout the year. And that is proven. I mean, look at that 8 and 6. 8 and 6 is a particularly.
It's certainly their calling card. 5 times in 10 seasons they have gone 8 and 6. It's just 50% of the time IKSAN is 8 and 6.
That is great. And and as you say, drafting from everywhere. It's not just a particular part. You really can do it from everywhere. So to have that level of consistency over such a long period of time, in my mind, because I am, as you, if you listen to the podcast over the years, you will know that I'm a sucker for consistency. I absolutely love it, and this underlines why this is Hall of Fame worthy. For me, it's rather than being a flash in the pan 1 season and maybe winning, he's got Pro Bowls to his name, and also he's got the record to back it up, and I think that is much more impressive. So yes, if we're going to judge whether or not this is Hall of Fame worthy, week on week, in my view, this absolutely is. Yeah,
it's a sustained period of excellence, which, like you said, we just have not seen, and it is we all know is an extremely difficult thing to string 2 good seasons together, let alone 7. Look, some of you might be saying, look, okay, we love the Hall of Fame, it's great, we nominate our things, but hang on a minute, I thought you said we couldn't nominate careers. Now, I agree, this does come to the borderline of a career, but it's a set defined period. Last year we saw Nige have effectively 3 seasons, or a 3-season stretch, go into the Hall of Fame, where he made all the Corona Bowls in those 3 years. In my mind, this is a very similar thing. We know this run is going to come to an end at some point, just by sheer luck. You would think Ben surely couldn't replicate it, but who knows? But this is a defined period, and obviously any nomination after this from Ben could not contain, if it's inducted, could not contain, a stretch of this nature. Just to clarify that. But moving on to this next bit, so I think it has really gone under the radar how good Ben's team is. When you think of IKSAN, you think, well, they're okay, they'll do pretty well, but not really one of the best, probably not one of the most exciting teams. And while a 7-year run is absolutely astounding with no losing seasons, the reason that goes under the radar is because they've only ever had 10 wins plus once, and you can see that was in 2019. And furthermore than that, you can see that their points are all around the same mark as well. They're never a world beater, are they, Chris?
You say that, but this is it. I don't think that year on year you have to have a particularly strong regular season record to be a good team. As we talked about last week on the pod, where we talked about high scoring teams and their ability to now make the playoffs as of next year potentially. Ben's team is always there or thereabouts in the playoffs because they're difficult to be beaten. So if you can get yourself to 8, 9, 10 wins, the likelihood of making the playoffs is very high. Especially if you've got a decent score inside as he does, and you look in there, he's always hovering around the 1,300, 1,400 point mark, which I'd say as an average over a course of a season per game is very good.
Yeah.
And in that 7 year stretch, to have got to the Chrono as many times as he has, and to win it as many times as he has.
Once. Just to clarify, he has only won once still, right? I'm not imagining.
Yes.
Yeah.
But the potential.
He's made 3. 4. Sorry, 4.
Yeah, that's it. He could have won 3 times the amount of that, if not for bad luck.
It's the same in the NFL. You look at the Super Bowl wins, but you've also got to consider how many Super Bowls they made it, because we like to romanticize that Super Bowl wins are the ultimate thing, they're the true sign of it. But it's a team game. Fantasy is you have a whole roster. Getting there is the culmination of good work, and then one game can just let you down, and that has been the case in that department, for example.
There's a reason why Marv Levy and Jim Kelly are both in the Hall of Fame. It's because they got to many Super Bowls and yet lost. Yes, the Bills choked a little bit, right? But that doesn't distract from the fact that they were both, and if they'd won a Super Bowl, their legacies would have been very different.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Same with Dan Marino. It's he never won one, but he's widely regarded as one of the best all time. Yeah. Yeah,
exactly that. And that's not to say that Ben's not that, because there's one person in the league that is definitely those. That's you, Phil, by the way. That's it. Ben isn't this, because the level, as you say, he's got one and could have done more.
Yeah.
That's it. But to get to within a hair's breadth of being the best player that we'd ever seen.
Yeah. For sure.
Not quite getting there, but achieving the records to be able to get there. It's a year-on-year consistency, year-on-year dedication to the craft. That to me is worth something. It's and if not in the Hall of Fame, certainly recognition, because as you said, there isn't that many people that can say this. If anybody.
No one could say this 7-year run. No one has gone 7 years without a losing season. No.
That's it. If you look at even if you look at people's careers, that's it. To have all but one and being 1 game away, there isn't anybody. I can't think of anybody that there is that exists that has that sort of record.
Yeah, I think I've got the accolades up here on Firefox. Let me just show that. So I think I did check through. We've got season stats active here. I think the only other team who's been in the league so long that came anywhere near to close to Ben's run. They are no longer in the league, in fact. None of the current teams, but ADRZ sort of do hold a candle. Not quite. They joined a year later. You can see that they've had a couple of losing seasons, and whereas Ben's was 6-8, Nige did have 2 pretty. He had a 4-10 and a 5-9, but obviously around that he's had some great seasons as well. So I think the only one that comes close to Ben in this regard is Nige.
Funny enough, those two teams used to go hand in hand at the time. They would say that if there was a rivalry that wasn't really a rivalry that was recognised, it was probably them. Because they always seem to be there or thereabouts every year.
Yeah.
And used to go to 2 Corona Bowls together.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's one that we probably miss is Ben versus Nige every year. But yeah, I mean, other than what we've just said, the unbelievable consistency, the fact that it's a reasonably unique record in active teams, as you just pointed out there.
Yeah.
As the drafts are the next big thing that I really want to talk about, and we'll just touch on it briefly because, there is a way that Ben does it that no one else does, which is fine. It's a unique way, as we said, as it says in the body of the text. There are some strange picks that come out of that. But that's it. There does seem to be more hits than misses, and
for sure.
And there's not too many times where you can say that Ben comes out of the draft, and you look at his team and go, well, that's not solid.
No, yeah, absolutely.
But for good reason as well, because there's a lot of things employed behind the scenes to be able to get him to that point, and plenty of research as well. And yeah, that's it. I think a lot of the time your team is fruit of what you put in. If you put a lot of time in and you put a lot of research in, you put if you create a spreadsheet to be able to draft people, then you probably deserve some success. You go into the draft without even thinking about it, and you wing it on the day, and your team epically fails because you haven't done the research, then that's on you. So yeah, for sure. I think that also deserves an awful lot of credit, even if it's not Hall of Fame worthy. It again, something to recognise.
Yeah.
It's the amount of time, effort, and the unique ability to be able to call on such things to help them out, which no one else does.
No one else does yet.
Yet.
And just speaking of those drafts, so we'll go through. We'll go through the 7 that this nomination relates to now. As he did put an emphasis when he mentioned it to me on the draft magic, as is the title. So you look at 2013, solid picks. Yes, it's the top, but these are the ones you need to nail, and I'm pretty sure that's certainly what helps Ben out with picking these safe and reliable guys. Matt Forte, Jordy Nelson. I can't remember if this was a good or bad year, or if it's Joey. I have a feeling it was a bit of a bad one, but you had Antonio Brown, Tom Brady. That was the year Doug Martin had a really good season as well. I don't think there's too much there in the bottom end, but a solid core there. If we go now to 2014, we will see when the page loads that's Matt Forte again, Antonio Brown again, Larry Fitzgerald, Matt Stafford. These are the keeper years as well, so I can't remember if Stafford was a keeper or not, so we have to take it into account. Doug Martin, Giovanni Bernard when he was the lead running back there in Cincinnati. Trent Richardson, he had some good years with Indianapolis. Kelvin Benjamin, I believe, his early years with Carolina, he was very good. So you go through it and you just see solid players. Let's take a look at 2015 now as well. Like I did mention in the text, you will get the odd, interesting ones that do happen later on.
Cam Newton down in the 12th round.
Yeah, Cam Newton, that's a great value there. Dwayne Bowe, probably not so much of a good value, but in the 14th, who cares?
Dwayne Bowe.
Again, nailing it again. This one always stands out for me, 2015, because this is the year that Ben went with 3 wide receivers off the bat, and no one had done that at that point, and it did raise some eyebrows in the room at the time, but I mean, it worked in 2015. It was it the year they won it? I can't remember. They certainly made the Corona Bowl in 2015, if they didn't win it. Demaryius Thomas, Mike Evans, Brown turned out absolutely superbly. You're at pick 9. Through those first 3 picks, to have the mettle to not take a running back, it if he's built a system that's told him that's the right path, and it was, as history turns out, it's crazy.
Yeah.
Arian Foster in the 5th.
At the time, getting Ellington and Aaron Foster in the positions that you did,
Yeah.
So they were serviceable, if not top tier guys, they were at least top 10.
Yeah. That's the thing with Ben. He very, very rarely misses on the higher stuff. We see again Jamal Charles, LaShawn McCoy, Alshon Jeffrey when he was with Chicago, Russell Wilson, Frank Gore when he was with Indianapolis, and obviously Larry Fitzgerald again. It's just solid picks. Tyler Lockett, I think he had a pretty decent year that year. Like Garrett Blunt had a fantastic year, 2016.
Yes, I remember that,
that was the year the Patriots made the Super Bowl against Atlanta. Steve Smith, he was a good value until he got injured as well, and I think Pierre Garçon had a pretty solid season. Will Fuller again, I think he probably missed a few games in the season, but while he was on the field, really good pick. So you do see the good picks later on in the draft. It's not just nailing the high reliable ones from Ben. We go now to 2017. Obviously, Elliott. You don't need a spreadsheet to tell you to take Elliott. Attempt, but this was the year he was suspended, I believe, which obviously did hamper him to begin with, but more than paid off when he came back. Jordy Nelson, I think this was probably one of his last good years in Green Bay, or the last good year in Green Bay. Lamar Miller, Travis Kelce, some good plays there. We're going to skip over the Sammy Watkins one, but Emmanuel Sanders was pretty good too. There's the infamous Cameron Meredith pick. This is why I mentioned in the article that before this draft, Cameron Meredith had torn his ACL. Ben obviously didn't know that down on his spreadsheet. He drafted him in the 11th round. Not ideal, but we can forgive him that. It is what it is.
It didn't affect him too much, obviously.
No, obviously not. No. 2018, so we're getting really recent now. DeAndre Hopkins again in the 1st round. Julio Jones going back-to-back, 2 QBs, and then a quarterback in the 3rd round. I think this was the year that Aaron Rodgers got injured, so again, not Ben's fault. Derrick Henry, I'm pretty sure he had a decent year. I think Rashad Penny had some okay games. Jeffrey would have been solid. Robert Woods was a great pick in the 8th round. He was a really good receiver that year, if you recall. I think that year with the Jets as well, Isaiah Crowell did pretty good too. And then if we look at last year's draft, real quickly, just to take you through the incredible 7-year of drafting. Todd Gurley, okay, not great. But Dalvin Cook more than made up for what you flip those two around and they look completely different. George Kittle was fantastic, as was Derrick Henry again in the 4th round. Tyler Boyd did quite well despite how bad Cincinnati were. Calvin Ridley had some great games, as did Marvin Jones.
Yeah, so he was MVP through like 10 weeks.
Yeah, Drew Brees again got injured but was solid. When he was with IKSAN for me later on as well. Courtland Sutton, another great pick. He, at the time as well, Courtland Sutton, no one was really rating him that highly, but he really did come on in the season. And John Brown, fantastic pick. He was absolutely crucial to IKSAN's success last year as well. So you go through it, and it is just consistent. They nail the big guys for the most part. Maybe a few whiffs. Obviously, injuries happen. But, they also get these diamonds in the rough down the bottom. It's just insane, this level of consistency with drafting.
Agreed. And bearing in mind, he's not someone that's known for really playing the waivers particularly well. So he'll pay for who he needs to pay for, but most of it, as I say, is done in the draft. And as you can see there, when you've got a spine of the team that's really solid, some guys are interchangeable, but you don't need to make widespread changes across the course of the year when you know what you're getting. And I think that's part of his success. The statistics don't lie.
No, definitely.
Past form doesn't lie. Well, not a lot of the time anyway. And if you don't take a gamble on somebody, then you can accumulate points, and you can accumulate points well. And I think that's again a major part of its success. So yes, this stretch is certainly Hall of Fame worthy.
Yeah.
Because I'm not sure we're going to see the likes of it again. And if we do, and if we set the benchmark as 7 years and someone gets to 8, then great.
That'll be in the Hall of Fame too, possibly.
It will. It's straight in. If this gets elected in, of course. But I have to say that that's going to take some beat.
Yeah, absolutely. You touched on it there in your in your spiel as well, and I did mention it in the article, that the only thing that really does let Ben down, and it didn't taint the 7-year stretch, but it did taint in crucial key moments, as we already mentioned with the Corona Bowls. The roster adds through the season is a big hole in Coach Sherwood's repertoire. He does compensate for that absolutely in the draft, but it just makes you wonder how good he could have been if he could be a bit more proactive with the in-season additions. He does trade every now and then. I'd say he's good at trading, but in terms of adding free agents and things like that, it's a bit spotty. So, and that certainly showed up in the Corona Bowl last year.
Absolutely, no doubt. And he was a couple of players away from competing in that final. Yes, it's quite difficult to understand a world where two of your best running backs go down in the same week. I completely get that. But yeah, it just shows as well that despite having one of the winningest records of anyone in the league, you can still improve your game. So
no days off, as Bill Belichick likes to say.
There is hope for us.
No days off. Yeah. Before we just finish up on this nomination, look, we can take a look at Ben. Ben also mentioned that he has the highest win rate in the league. This is not part of the nomination, but it just further compounds to show you how well Ben has done since he's been in the league. So obviously he's been in the league a year less than the founding teams, but he's overtaken two of those teams, mine and yours, on the all-time win list. If we look at his win percentage, it should be the highest on here. I think 5.61 all time. That's of all coaches, which again is just it's no joke to be able to say that. And he's creeping. He's tied with another founding team, and he's only 4 wins behind the best founding team and the best in the league. So it just goes to show how well he has done. If we look at finally on the accolades, again we can. Oh, this is definitely the wrong thing. The accolades are over here. If we look at the accolades, this is the thing that tracks titles and everything. We've got Ben in this one here. As part of the quiz, you all know that Ben is not the most decorated. I will not reveal the answer of who is until you do the quiz, but 16 accolades, it's certainly up there. He's got a Corona Bowl to his name, 2 Corona Bowls runners-up, 5 playoff appearances, which is good for tied second in the league, just behind the Tuckfards, who are on 6. 1 regular season champion, which was last year. 3 division championships. So when he's making the playoffs, even though he's not getting the high records, he's still winning the divisions. He's not getting through in the wild card very often. Only 1 general manager of the year, which is perhaps a bit underrated, but we do talk about, with that award, you've got to have a draft and the ads and the trades in the season. While he does have very good drafts, the other pots do let him down, and that's probably been a large reason why he's not won as many General Manager of the Year awards. 3 Luck awards, okay, we can throw those out because only 2 of those happened in that span. But I think there has been a couple of years where he's not been very scored against. I think that was the case in 2018, if I recall, and 1 Overachiever award in that span as well. So very decorated, but like I said, kind of has gone under the radar a bit, but I think this really does just highlight how magnificent of a run, and what a strong nomination to start with, wouldn't you say?
I think so. I think it's going to take some beating, this one. You have to take your hat off to him, and yeah. I'm looking forward to next week to see if it's anywhere near the same caliber. It's going to be challenging to beat that.
Yeah, I can't remember what the next one is, but I think it's a bit more of a zany one, which will be questionable whether it should be considered again for other reasons. But in that vein, if it is, it's down to you at the end of the day. If you do deem it considerable, then I also think it's a very strong nomination in its own right, if it's the one I'm thinking of. I will say at the top of the show if it's not. But so that's IKSAN's Hall of Fame nomination, Draft Magic, 7-year run without a losing season. As I mentioned at the start, voting will open after we've done all of the we've revealed all of the nominations and done a podcast. I have planned all the episodes out. I think that's around the end of July time. But that's all today. Like I said, these are going to be fairly short, bite-sized episodes as we are covering one single topic, but hopefully you enjoy it. Let us know, of course. And Chris, thank you for joining me on another lovely day. I hope you have a good rest of your week, as I do for you as well, dear viewers. We will see you next week for the next nomination.
Take it easy.